Hi tribe, welcome to Pop Salt and Culture. It's another wonderful week and there is so much in store. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers that we've gotten in. We're up to 1,300 subscribers, which is great. I am grateful for all the people who, of all the channels they could be subscribing to and they could be following, they chose us, right? They chose to be a part of the Salt Tribe, to be a part of Pop Salt and Culture. I am so grateful for that. Welcome. Cheers. So we were supposed to do relationship Sundays today. As you guys know, every Sunday I come on live between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time, New York time, New Jersey time. So if you're in a different area code, I understand, but that's the time that we come on live. And if you missed it, that's okay, because I'm doing this and I don't think that I'll be able to make the live today. So I thought I'd come up with something to share with you guys relationship wise. So as you can see from the title, it's very real. This is not clickbait. This is how I found love at a funeral. When you come of age to date, a lot of people tend to start giving you advice, especially when you ask for it, and some of it will be definitely unsolicited advice. You're getting advice from your mother, your aunties, your friends, your cousins, girls, guys, your brothers, right? If you're lucky, you're getting a ton of it. If not, you know, sometimes you actually have to ask, and it's not always unsolicited. And depending on the age group and their experiences, they would usually tell you, you know, the kind of people to look for, what's healthy and what they consider to be unhealthy. With me, I know that my mother would always tell me, you know, not always, because she doesn't really get involved in my dating life, that's to be honest. I usually talk about my dating life mostly with my father. We just have a relationship like that where we can talk about, you know, relationships and other stuff that are intimate that I want to get his advice on. But my mom, when I started dating and talking to her about the men in my life, even though she wasn't very comfortable with it sometimes, she would tell me, listen, if you want an engineer, what do? You go to school, right? When you're in school, you go to the science labs, you go to the engineer faculty, you study where they study, you make friends within that group and you stay around them. Sound advice, right? Makes a lot of sense. And people will tell you, well, like guys will tell you this a lot, and for many stupid reasons and sometimes sensible reasons. They will ask you, oh, where did you meet this guy? And you would say, oh, I went out dancing and I met this person. They'll be like, oh, you met him at a club, go, you met him at a party. You should have known that was wrong. I see a lot of people tell girls that, like, you met this person at a club, you met them at a party. They'll tell you, of course you're gonna be trash. What did you expect? Don't date guys that you meet at the club. Date the men you meet at the library, date the men you meet at church, date the men you meet in school, within an academic setting, date the men within settings that you aspire to be or that you want to be in or that you like, or within the group that you like, right? So go to the airports, hang out in lounges, whether you can afford it or not. Figure a way to hang out in lounges. Go to very expensive hotels and chill. You know, people have all these things they tell you. And for a lot of Nigerian girls, you guys already know weddings are the biggest thing, right? Especially in your late 20s or your early 20s, all the way into your 40s, it doesn't matter. They always tell you, you know, weddings are great. Is there another wedding happening? Is there a church event happening? This is where you need to be, period. You know, the older women will always tell you that and nothing else. This wedding, this wedding, this wedding. And I know if you're not Nigerian, and if you are Nigerian, if you've never heard this, and you wonder why people always push you to go to these weddings and you dread them and whatnot, this could be why, okay? Especially if you're single, they'd always push you to go to weddings. And if you don't know why, this is why, because they think you will meet someone of a good caliber, good, you know, whatever, at a wedding. So for me, I have always hated weddings. Like, I hate weddings, right? And so therefore, if you see me at a wedding, it's because it's a family member, right? And I have to be there and I want to be supportive. I'm only at any wedding because I want to be supportive, or because someone I fancy is going to be there, or because someone who's hanging out with me is like, listen, we're home, we're not doing anything, we're bored. Let's go. In which case I would only go to the reception. I cannot stand weddings, and it's a long story stemming from my childhood and the amount of weddings I was a flower girl at, and everything that, you know, transpired with so many weddings I was a part of. It scarred me, and I can never look at weddings the same. I really hate weddings. But interestingly enough, I love funerals. I know. I know it sounds morbid to a lot of people. I love funerals. I don't like that someone loses anyone and they're hurting. No. And I'm not talking about funerals for people who are young, who pass. Those are really painful to witness. But funerals for people who are much older, who have transitioned, are really celebrated where I'm from, both on my Cameroonian side, Mankon tribe, and on my Nigerian side, the Igbo tribe, right? If you are older, especially if you had children, oh my goodness, it is a celebratory thing that you have transitioned to Indimo, to move to the side of, you know, the spirits, right? It's a great celebration, right? You cry, yes, you mourn, but like the funeral itself is a joyous affair, dancing and ushering that spirit, officially ushering that spirit into the spirit world, right? So I've always loved funerals. I really have, because it's a deep spiritual thing, and it's just so much reflection, and I can't explain, but it's a beautiful spiritual transition just because of where I'm from. Now for other people, you know, they might wear black at funerals, they might, you know, have a more solemn, a more sad structure around their funerals. Some funeral rites are really horrible and traumatizing for anyone. Not in my case. So let's just go right ahead and let me just give you the tea on this, right? The first African guy I ever dated was Cameroonian, and I'm not going to go into much detail because I want to protect the person's identity, and hopefully the person's not watching. And if they're watching, and if you think this is about you, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But he was the first African person I ever dated, and I remember my dad was like, oh, this auntie has lost someone very close to them, and you need to go to the funeral. We need to go to the funeral. And that time my dad was in town, and I don't know if he was in town, no, I don't remember, it was years ago. And he said, well, just go to the funeral. All your cousins who you've never met or you've met or whatnot are going to be there. Family's going to be there. It's going to be, you know, something that I think you should be a part of. And I was like, okay, why not? It was on a weekend. So I went, and you know, I met up with my cousins and with everyone, and it was good. A lot of young people my age were there. I didn't expect that, of course. I just went to support and be there for the family. And there were drinks and everything. People were actually in a very, very good mood. My older uncles and what came through, they were talking. There was so much food, festivities, were just talking, meeting each other, sitting down and talking. So even, you know, how sometimes the younger people, you know, I don't know if they do it in the family setting, but sometimes people go out and don't talk to each other. But that wasn't the case, right? People talk to each other and whatnot. And so I met this guy there, and he was so quiet, and he was doing his thing around the house, just walking and doing whatever. And I was like, oh, who's that kid? Who's that guy? And they told me who he was, and I was like, oh, he's pretty good looking. And I just watched how he did things, and he was quite serious. And I'm a very cities, mind you. But when he was in town, he will invite me to go do, you know, different activities with him, right? And it was fun. It was fun, it was interesting, and I wouldn't call it love, to be honest, but I liked him a whole lot. I liked him so much because I felt like he complemented my energy. He was completely opposite, and I eventually learned that it's so hot. It's so darn hot, and I don't want to put the AC on. You guys already know when I film, I cannot put the AC on because the noise is freaking ridiculous. I can't. So here we go, a fanning. I like this guy a whole lot because we were the opposite of each other. I was in my early 20s. At the time, I was so young and not really well versed with how this love thing works. So I liked him a lot, but we were opposite. We were the very opposite of each other. He was into the sciences and I was very much an artist. He was incredibly silent, incredibly quiet and introverted. At that time, I was very extroverted. Now I'm really a mesh of both. But at that time, I was very extroverted. And just his energy was a little bit off compared to mine. But he was moody. He was very moody. And I just liked the fact that he was the opposite of me. He took himself way too seriously. And I just lived, right? What I thought I should take serious, I did. And what I thought didn't require so much, you know, seriousness and whatnot, I let be. So he was so much the opposite of me that I was attracted to that. But I later on learned that it is not that opposites necessarily attract, or it's not the fact that opposites attract that means that they're compatible. What you need to look for is not the opposite of yourself, but the complement of yourself, right? A situation where the other person fits very well with you. Sometimes they're just like you, and other times they are different. But I don't know about completely opposite. I'm not sure, and in my experience it's never worked out. You need someone with whom you are equally yoked, and we were not at all. But all that I found later on in the relationship, alongside other crazy things that happened. But for the most part, when we started talking to each other, it was electrifying in my experience. It was electrifying. I had so much fun. He was a great distraction. And, you know, it was the first African man I had ever dated. And it was just... it was an adventure. It was such an adventure. A lot of my cousins knew about it and they used to tease me about how different we were. And most of them honestly did not like him for me, to be honest. They're like, God, she's so boring and so dry. And like, how do you do it, darling? And sometimes they would listen to our conversations and he'll be like, it sounds pretty painful. And I would be like so happy because I'm like having the time of my life with this dude, right? When we're on the phone and whatnot, like it's great. And they're just like, he sounds so dry. He sounds terrible. Like, ditch him, this is not you. And eventually, of course, it didn't work out. It didn't work out at all. I was not happy, and so things just had to be cut off, right? I'm sharing this with you because of all the places that you can find love. I think it's interesting when people try to relegate where you find a good partner, where you find love, where you find someone that you're compatible with to a specific location. I think it is nonsense, crap, and bullocks. I think everybody's situation is different. This concept of people trying to look at the world in black and white, to me, is incredibly flawed. There's a big problem with that. The world is not black and white. The world is very much gray, very much colorful, and everything in between. What does that mean? That means things are not always the way you think that they should turn out or work out. People's personal experiences vary. So I understand that therefore people create a formula for what has worked given the statistics and the numbers, right? And people's experiences around them. So while I would say that yes, there are certain places where the probability of finding an asshole is higher than other places, I would say explore different things. So yes, I'll say go to a funeral. Weddings are not the only places where you can find someone who's great. Go to a funeral, especially a funeral of someone who is much older, who has passed. If it's not a traumatic event, you're most likely to find people who are more relaxed, family catching up, people who've never seen each other in a long time, talking to each other, consoling each other, just wanting to be around each other. There's a strong sense of getting together and community and just wanting to be with each other and love on each other, even to people who you don't know. People just smile more at funerals to people who they don't know, because I don't know what the relationship with this person is, I don't know how they're feeling about this, but I'm just going to be nice. People try to go above and beyond to bring good energy at funerals, which is very different from weddings. Especially African weddings. People are very, you see a lot of people who are very competitive, people who are very stressed out, people who are coming for their own agendas, you name it. And it's not the same energy that you get at a funeral of someone who is much older and has transitioned, where the funeral becomes more celebratory in many different cultures. So do not restrict yourself. You might find good people at the club, but maybe you have a better chance of finding a good partner at a dance party gathering with people who you know, right? A house party or whatnot. Just don't limit yourself. There's so much love within you, and if you nurture the love within you, you would only attract, for the most part, mirror images of yourself. Everything good or bad that you find around yourself is just mirroring you, mirroring your energy, mirroring you, right? Even your subconscious, it's always being mirrored. So don't be afraid. And don't restrict yourself, okay? I found love at a funeral in my 20s. The first African guy that I ever really liked and had this, in my head, real romance with. And it was so much fun while it was fun, right? It was so much fun while it was fun. It was, I feel all the people I've ever really liked or claimed to have loved to some capacity have always changed or pushed me to grow in a positive and really beautiful manner. So don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And so I definitely wanted to share this with you guys. I found love at a funeral, and so can you. How that love turned out, girl, that is a whole other story time. And until next week, I've been your host, Lachi Chimamba, for Pop, Salt, and Pow 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 Culture. Cheers. If you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Join the tribe. We're like super excited to have you. You're gonna have a time of your life. The time of your goddamn life. Join the tribe.